Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the Wellbeing Show. I've got somebody from down under here, but she doesn't sound like she's from down under. She sounds like she's from across the pond, but actually she is down under in Australia at the moment. Patricia Gordon-Stevens is joining us, who's a psychotherapist who moved from the US to Australia. We're going to hear all about that. As usual, just to let people know that we pre-record this, so if you have any questions, send them in as messages rather than just call me because I'll probably be doing something else. If you like the show, please follow the channel, leave some comments, let me know if you have any questions or thoughts. That'd be great to hear from you. And if you have any ideas for subjects that you'd like to cover as well, then do let me know. We're going to be talking about what's in the UK called intimate partner violence. Still called it domestic abuse, I think, around the world. Both terms are fine. So just be aware of that. That might be potentially triggering. I just want to say right from the outset that if you start to recognize some of this stuff as a relationship that you're currently in, can I suggest that you go and seek professional help immediately? Legal professional help. That's where you start in the UK with the legal services to protect yourself and your children if they're involved. You go, Women's Aid is a great place to start in the UK. We'll hear about some in Australia as well. You should never, ever be afraid of somebody who claims to love you. That's the truth here. That's the bottom line. And if you are afraid of them, there's a problem and you need help. And if somebody raises a hand to you, then you need to get out of Dodge, but you need to do that safely because I'm sure we'll talk about this, but the point where somebody leaves an abusive partner is often the most dangerous point, and you need serious help during that time. And there are dedicated services around the world to help women and children in those situations. I'm going to put my hand up and say I grew up in a violent home, so this one is close to my heart. So it's really important to me to promote these subjects and promote safety and challenge any form of violence, control, or coercion in intimate relationships. So that's that bit done. If you're watching this and you are in, just remember to clear your browser history. There are various browser tools and stuff like that for people who are in abusive relationships that you can just download, and they will make sure that your violent partner doesn't see the types of things that you're watching. So lots of safe tools. Again, in the UK, if you get in touch with something like Women's Aid, they will help you a lot with these things, practical tools and um, sources of help. So that's it from the beginning. Hi, Pat or Patricia, which do you prefer?
Patricia, PGS, or George.
Easy.
Seriously. PGS, Patricia Gordon Stevens, which is really,
Okay.
really great. Or George, my sister never wanted a sister. My mother brought me home from the hospital to introduce me. My sister was 5 years older. She said, "You brought the wrong kind home. Take her back." My mother said she's not going back. And my sister Constance, who's no longer with us, dubbed
Oh,
me George. So anyway, I don't mind George at
well, I
all. It's
like
simple.
George. That's fine. All right, George, how you doing?
Oh, oh, that's fabulous. You just made me feel so at home. But may I say,
Great.
Your your introduction was so rich
Ah,
and was so comprehensive and filled with so much goodness about everything we're
yeah.
prepared to talk about. And I really appreciate that. That was well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's really good to have you here, Patricia. It's great to have you here with us. And thanks for making time to meet us. You're in the evening, aren't you? About 6 or something, did you say in the evening?
Yes, it's about 6:45 in the evening in Kapunda Down Under,
Yeah.
South Australia.
There's that really strange time zone in Australia, which is an hour and a half or a half hour or something. It's like bizarre. I
It
never
is.
quite understand how that works. Sort of.
It is. My husband was born and raised in, well, he was born in Maidstone, Kent, and raised in Chelsea, private boarding school, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we are well attuned to the times in England because he still has two older brothers there in family. So We speak to England a lot. We love it.
But you're not from Australia or England, I can tell. I don't know what's giving it away, but there's some subtle cues going on there somehow. Where are you from exactly?
You're fabulous. Memphis, Tennessee.
Great. A Memphis
Memphis,
Belle.
Tennessee. But I do believe I was far too old when I moved over. I was in my 40s. And so it just didn't, well, I don't sound right when I turn home to go visit. And I
Right.
certainly don't sound right here. I don't fit in anywhere, but I'm old enough not to care. It doesn't matter. It's
Uh,
my voice. It is what it is. And it's the only accent I have.
so you grew up in the US, large family, small family, what sort of situation?
Oh, oh no. That's a great question. Teeny tiny family. My mother and father were only children.
Right.
Now, imagine that when I went to elementary school, when I was in, my sister was 5 years older, but when I went to elementary school and we would break for summer, everybody would talk about going on their family reunion. And
Hmm.
I had no clue what that meant. So just imagine for a second, no uncles, no cousins, no aunts or aunts, however you want to pronounce it. Nobody.
Hmm.
Mother, father. My family could fit in the corner of an elevator, and that would be my entire family.
Wow. Wow. Was that
So,
unusual for this sort of area where you were? Was it more usually
well,
larger
yeah,
families and stuff?
yeah. Most people had three children or more, 3 to 5 children,
Right.
and most people had lots of aunts and uncles and family reunion and cousins.
Hmm.
Everybody had cousins. I was so jealous I didn't have a cousin.
I've got millions of cousins I've never met. I'm Irish Catholic, so I grew up in England, but it's like half of Ireland is my family, I think. Whenever I go over it, that's what it feels like. Oh, we're related, are we? Okay. So what was the thing about why was it such a small family? Were your parents immigrants or?
Well, I know that my mother's side of the family came over from France.
Mhm.
Ended up in the Cajun part of Louisiana and
Wow.
then
Yeah.
migrated to Memphis. And I think my father's was mostly, his surname is Gordon, was mostly Scottish.
Yeah.
But mostly there's the French side on my maternal side.
Okay.
And
And
they landed in Memphis.
what was it like growing up in would you call Memphis a southern state? It's the southern state, is
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Memphis is part of the Deep South, Memphis,
okay.
Tennessee. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful hot summers,
Yeah.
gorgeous hot summers, lots of barbecue nights. And Memphis in May is a tradition that Memphians just love. It's by the Mississippi River,
Right.
barbecue galore, big concerts that used to be held at the Half Shell. I think the Half Shell still does some concerts in Memphis. And then down on by the Mississippi River. Memphis has changed a lot, though. A
Yeah.
lot of things that were there that I enjoyed so much growing up in my young adulthood have disappeared,
Mm,
vanished. And
mm.
they've been constructed into other venues.
Okay.
But Memphis used to be one of the country's most beautiful and cleanest cities.
Right. Right.
It,
But not
it's
so
it,
these days, you were saying before the show. It's sort of
it's
deteriorate.
struggling.
Yeah.
Yes, it's struggling with violence, as many cities are, not just Memphis, of course, but many cities are struggling with gun violence and
Yes. I
other
mean that's
crimes.
I mean I think as an external observer to the US, I've been to the US a lot. It frightens me, the gun violence. I'm like
I
it
know.
really genuinely makes me anxious. I last time I was there was a couple of years ago. I went to California. I took my stepson to Disney and it
Oh,
was great. Yeah, I mean we had a great time. But I remember I was walking through a shopping center, a mall, as you would call it, a large one. We needed some extra luggage because he bought too many soft toys at Disney. So we needed things to put them on the plane. And then at one point, I remember, and I'd never had this in America before, and I've been there lots, but at one point I went, hmm, this is where those strange people with guns come and shoot you. And I started to get really anxious, and this intrusive thought came into my head. Now, I was only a visitor, and this intrusive sort of, as you would understand, post-traumatic type thought came into my head. And I wondered, my God, if you live there and you have this sort of thought potentially intruding into your mind, that must do something quite difficult. Was it like that but it wasn't so much like that when you were there, I guess?
well, more and more people did have guns when I was there.
Right.
And I did move to Atlanta, Georgia prior to moving to Australia. So I moved to an even bigger city, a larger city. But, in the very beginning, those guns were used to protect your land and your property.
Yeah.
Semi-automatic weapons were not written in for people to own and to
Right.
have and to
Yes.
carry.
Yeah.
So I I just I
One
just
can
don't
understand
understand.
one can understand farmers, for example, or landowners having weapons to control pests, etc., and all that sort of stuff. And if you're sort of worried about home invasion, you might have a pistol. But again, weapons of war, assault rifles, do seem a bit like really. Do you
And
know what
you'd
I
be
mean?
really
It's like
yeah, you'd be really surprised at how many people, males and females, do carry them
yeah,
and
and
have them hidden or concealed.
it's become a political battleground, hasn't it? All this right to bear and all that sort of stuff. It's like, but it's sort of there's a simple truth, isn't there? The more weapons there are, the more violence there's going to be. Whatever
Well,
those.
it feels that way, and there's too much money involved. And
Right.
once there's so much money involved, no one's going to make decisions against people who want to make more money. And you
Yeah.
have to think, when does someone have enough? I mean, Putin has the largest landmass in the world. His country is the largest in the world.
Exactly.
Yet
When is
he
there enough?
wants
Exactly.
more.
Yeah.
He wants
Right.
more. And it
Right.
used to be the word billion shocked us.
Yeah.
It shocked our senses. We couldn't even conceive. But
Yeah.
now a billion's not enough. You
Yeah.
know, I
So
just don't know.
let's go back a little bit in time so we understand something about where all your passions come from, because you're a passionate person who's very committed to their life. Growing up, a southern sort of traditional outdoors, barbecues, friends, school. What was all that like for you? Did you enjoy that type of lifestyle? Were you a sort of outdoors girl, or
School was the best. I
was
loved
it?
my friends with all my heart. I couldn't sing. I can't sing in the shower. I cannot sing. So my mother, I had no choice but going to the band. But I loved my band instructor. I think I had a little crush on him. So I
Yeah.
would practice my clarinet 2 hours a day, and I ended up being first chair clarinet. I was a junior high, but I got moved to the senior high band, first chair. Everybody would challenge me. I'd knock them out in the dust. I knew how to play that clarinet. I loved it. And on the other hand, my sister Constance, who's no longer with us, was 5 years older,
Mhm.
and she was a horse whisperer.
Mm.
She was an equestrian. She
Okay.
was an artist winning awards when she was just 12 years of age. And I grew up in her shadow. She didn't care for me. She did name me George because she wanted a little brother when my mother brought me home. She didn't want a little sister. But I was in awe of her. She skipped the 11th grade in high school because she loved animals more than people. And she was so smart. She just wanted to get school over with. And she was the first person to go to university in our family.
Right.
Um, Constance was an amazing person.
Mhm.
And Constance had told my mother when she was a little bitty girl, she saw a picture book about Australian animals. And she said, I'm going to move there. I am going to move there.
Wow.
They have the most unique creatures in the world. And no, she made that happen.
Yeah.
She made that happen. She moved here, um, created a life. She went into museology at university, so she got to create visitor centers in
Mhm.
Goolwa, South Australia, and other places. She had to teach graffiti offenders proper art or a
Mhm.
different kind of art. She had
Mhm.
to be engaged with them through court programs. She made a big difference in South Australia. And
Okay.
eventually, my husband and I bought a little bitty pub about 7 minutes away from here called the Wheat Sheaf Pub.
Mhm.
And I dedicated a corner of the pub to my sister Constance because she was a great artist. I
Mhm.
had tons of photos. And people would come from all over South Australia, walk into the pub,
Mhm.
and start screaming when they saw Constance and said, That's Constance. That's Constance. How do you know her? How do you know her? And anybody would say, Go see Patricia. That's her sister. And so stories after stories would occur, and I'd end up crying at the front bar because they were so beautiful. And it's a small state.
Yeah.
In
When
some
when did your
aspects, it's a
when
small
did your
country.
sister pass, Patricia?
In 2000,
Okay.
January 21st, 2000.
Right. So she was quite young.
2000. She was going to be 50 that year.
Yeah.
She was going to be 50. And
Yeah.
my mother had come over to visit during the millennium. And I was so envious. I was so jealous. At that time, I lived in a country club estate. We were going to have an ice sculpture, a live, huge band playing music. Remember the millennium? The world was
Yeah, I
supposed to
do.
stop.
We remember well. We had a dome built here in London, which caused a lot of amusement at the time.
And remember, we were going to, there would be no more paper. Everything would be
Yeah.
electronic.
It was either
But
that or the world was going to end. I can't remember which it was.
yeah, yeah, all the above.
All the
All the
above.
above. But
Yeah.
anyway, my mother came out here. I was really jealous. I was really envious. I said, please let us fly you out to Atlanta from Memphis. Please come and stay with us. And she said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be with your sister for 60 days.
All right.
And we're going to go on the GAN, the beautiful train ride, the GAN, and we're going to go travel around and have a blast. Well, the one day my mother did not run errands with my sister, the one day Constance was in a really big hurry. She drove a Jackaroo, which is like a Jeep, like a Cherokee Jeep.
Yeah.
And my husband, Marcus, said she was the worst driver he was scared to get in the car with her. Anyway, she was killed on the main road to Gawler, which is the next large town up. And the reason I'm telling you this, she was ejected from her vehicle. She went to overtake someone. Someone else tried to overtake. She was thrown out of the car. But no, my mother's mother
Hmm.
died when my mother was 8 years old, and she died the exact same way.
Wow.
Ejected from a car, esophagus crushed instantly, death. So my
Wow.
mother never got over it.
Wow.
Never got over it.
Sure, sure. Is your mother still with us or did she pass as well?
No, my mother, no, she's not still with us.
Okay,
No,
fine.
she,
That's so really sad. How did it affect you, that experience? Because your mother was down in Australia and you were in the US.
no, my mother was in America.
Oh, was she in
Yeah,
America?
yeah, yes, 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 yes. No, 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 you're right. That's when my mother was visiting. Well, I got the phone call. I was with this other partner who shaved his head, about 6 foot, 6'3", big boy,
Mhm.
302 pounds, and he
Mhm.
called me Precious Patty. He had
Right.
me tattooed on his arm from his elbow up to the top of his shoulder, and he said, we were separating. We'd
Mhm.
been together for a little over 12 or 13 years, and I was upstairs until I could get some things together. He said, Precious Patty, come and sit on the stairs. I have your beautiful mother on the phone, but I want you
Mhm.
to come and sit. So he's coming up the stairs with the phone. I'm coming down, and I don't know what's happening.
Mhm.
But he said, your mother's really upset. Sit down, please.
Mhm.
And so my mother told me that my sister was in an accident, but I didn't know what that meant. I just thought she was in a horrible car accident. So I made my mother tell me that my sister had been killed. And
Mhm.
then 48 hours later, I was on a plane ride over to, of course, try to help her, be by her side, and close my sister's estate. But it was horrible. It
Yeah,
was terrible.
of course, of course.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
And just to go ahead and tie this up in a bow about grief, great grief, 2 months and one day after my only sibling was killed,
Mm.
my precious son, who was my second born child, first male born in 4 generations of our family,
Mm.
opted out on life. He decided he could not go any further, and he took his life.
I'm so sorry.
And and so therefore my teeny tiny family was reduced to my mother,
Mhm.
my daughter, and myself. And it was like we felt like tumbleweeds. We
Sure.
were just rolling along to try to navigate this thing called life, and to try
Mhm.
to pick ourselves up every day and go
Mhm.
forward and
Mhm.
to be there for each other. But it was terribly tricky. It was just, it
It
was the
sounds,
worst thing I've ever
of
experienced.
course, yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. It's without a doubt. How did you, I mean, you had a daughter, so I presume that was one of the reasons that you kept going rather than just give up yourself, was like, I've
Oh,
got something to live for. I'm a mother and I'm going to get through this. We're going to get through this together.
of course, she
Yeah.
was an adult daughter by that time, but yes, yes, that's the reason you keep going.
Yeah.
You set an example. Everybody still needs a lot of love,
Hmm.
needs to be loved. You know, my mother was reeling. I know Corey, my son, was her favorite grandchild. I know. So she was absolutely distraught, but she did her best
Mm.
to, to surround both of us and take care of us. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we were all just a complete mess
Yeah.
for a good long while.
And grief is one of those things, isn't it? It's a bit like a hammer and anvil. It could shape you or it could destroy you. You could shatter. It looks like somehow it had an impact upon you, that it shaped you, it tempered you, it changed the way you are as a person. Is that what happened to you? You sort of gave you a message about things that you wanted to achieve and things that you wanted to change in your life, maybe?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I got serious about a lot of things. And you
Oh,
do realize we do not know when our last day on this earth is going to be.
yeah.
And and kindness is such an easy thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Being kind is so easy. It takes love and kindness takes such less energy than hatred and venom and being vile and being cruel. I mean, it's just, and you never ever know what the person in the post office or the grocery store is going through. And
Sure.
a simple smile, a simple acknowledgement, you know,
Well,
so
I
many
mean, it's
people are
interesting.
suffering.
For some people, these types of formative experiences can make them very brittle, very hard, very angry, even very cruel. But you chose a different route. Do you know what it was about you that made you choose this route where you decided that you're going to live life to the full, you're going to adopt kindness, you're going to start, I guess, helping people? What was it in you, do you think? Where did that come from?
You make me, in some ways, those words make me sound like a saint or this really truly perfect
I'm
person. I
sure
I,
you're
I
not a
wasn't.
saint. I'm sure you're a
No, no,
human
no, no,
being
no.
like
I
the rest
wasn't.
of us.
Yes, I was. I was really searching for answers.
Sure.
I wanted to know as time went on, and I also had lived through a second marriage before I met this beautiful partner in Atlanta, Georgia. And the second marriage was very destructive and
Hmm.
negative and volatile and messy and horrific. So, between that marriage, that behavior, how I landed in that marriage, and my son's choice to end life when so many people loved him, he was just a doll. I wanted to understand how the brain worked, and
Right.
I wanted to understand behavior better.
Sure.
Um, so I did return to university
Hmm.
to study psychological science and sociology. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it so much. My husband said, I've never seen a person smile while they study.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted I wanted to know more, so I went on to continue my master's of counseling.
Okay.
And that way I knew I would be able to go back into this community. I live in a tiny rural regional community,
Hmm.
an hour north of our capital. So I thought, well, that way I can give back.
Yeah.
And I do know what grief is like.
Yeah.
I still think about my son sometimes daily,
Yes, of
sometimes
course.
more than daily, but
Sure.
I do know that there's a way through it. You don't get over it, but you can get through it.
Mm.
And I also know that um, there are certain things you take in a marriage. You understand that people don't get along and people disagree. And there are certain things you absolutely do not take in a
Sure.
relationship. Now, this man was diagnosed with, it was called back then manic depressive, but it's bipolar.
Bipolar. Yeah.
And he was also diagnosed with a severe personality disorder.
Hmm.
And I took my two children into this marriage.
Hmm.
So we were we were forever changed. We had our eyes opened. And when people say they walk on eggshells, you never know what's coming around the corner. You never know which personality you're going to see when you walk into the door after you've been working. You just don't know.
Mm.
And you're braced, and you can only brace yourself for so long.
Sure.
So
Can you
that's
do
why I
you mind
returned to study.
explaining so that people understand? I think a lot of people do understand, but what do you mean by walking on eggshells? Can you describe that a bit more?
Oh, well, first of all, you've been told almost since the beginning, if you didn't do this, or if you did this better, or if you did this differently, I wouldn't respond this way. I wouldn't act this way. I wouldn't become
Sure.
so angry. If you would just dress differently, if you wouldn't be so vivacious and outgoing. I am a Southerner. My mother touched people when she talked. She touched their arms or their hands or their shoulders. And I grew up looking at my mother and observing my mother. So I was a toucher too. I don't know if it's a Southern thing, but we just touch people when we talk. And anyway, I do remember one specific evening when he grabbed me and said, if you touch one more person when you're talking to them, I'm just going to cut your hands off and you
Right.
won't be able to do it again.
Mm.
And obviously that didn't happen,
Yeah.
but it's just the words were so harsh and horrific. And I've never been spoken to like that, that this is when you think, oh my gosh,
Mm. Mm.
I, what can I do to make him calm and to make him gentle and to make him kind? What can I do?
And also, I guess you were worried about your children as well as a mother. You were sort of putting
Oh,
yourself in harm's way to protect them, which is often what happens, right?
yes. And because their father had them like every other weekend, which is what happens when a lot of people divorce, they weren't there all the time. And it seems as though a lot of the stuff, a lot of the arguments that happened and that transpired were always or mostly when the kids weren't there. But then it got to the point he didn't care. It didn't matter. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I wrote my book, Madness in Memphis, at Christmas because I want people to know monsters do not care about holidays.
Yeah.
Monsters do not care about the season.
Yeah.
Monsters want to control and they want to do what they want to do when they want to do it. It
Sure.
does not matter.
Sure. I wonder as well, often when I talk to people about these issues, particularly amazing survivors like yourself, but you'll look back on these things and think, how on earth did I get into that? I thought I was a clever woman. I thought I was could spot this nonsense. But would you mind sharing some of that stuff?
Oh,
It's helpful to people.
that is just such a huge magnified thread through the entire book.
Sure. Yeah.
Morgan Sage is the protagonist, and she is reflecting almost every day of her life.
Yeah.
She's so angry with herself. She always used to think that she was the most perceptive person in the world. I thought I was the most perceptive person in the world. And as a counselor, I can tell you, people can mask their personalities.
Yeah.
And we all have good in us. We all have bad in us. We all have good and bad days. But to mask a certain personality, it's very difficult for someone to do that over a year. So I plead with people, please do not move in too quickly. Please do not
I
accept someone's
agree.
hand in marriage.
Right.
Please get to know someone.
Definitely. Yeah.
And the old saying, watch how they treat the server, watch how they treat the waitress, watch how they treat the people around them.
Sure.
You watch, you better watch because
Yeah.
that's their true self. That's who they are.
But I guess, well, I mean, it's interesting because there's a process. Maybe we can call it grooming of when you meet somebody, you might get their best face, but then a year
You do.
later you'll think. So I guess he didn't come with horns and a tail that were
Oh,
obvious, right?
no. Oh, no. Very tall and charismatic. And he worked on my mother. I have a huge tribe of girlfriends,
Mm,
my circle of support. I call them my Memphis sisters. And of
mm,
course, we're not related, but they are my sisters until the day I die. And he made sure he ingratiated himself from the very beginning with all of these people. And I feel as though that was a plan because when things started falling apart, the comments would be, oh, I know him. He was just over here the other morning for coffee. He's not capable of that. He is not capable of what you just said.
yeah.
And then a woman will tend to shut down.
Mhm.
She'll tend, and then when he says, of course, oh, that's not the way it happened, that old word, gaslighting, the old new word, it's been around forever. We just call
Yeah.
it gaslighting.
Yeah.
A woman, especially a professional woman, begins to doubt herself.
Sure.
All women do, but I tell people to please start journaling, write down these things because if you give yourself time, space, distance between the action that happened and what he said happened and what you believe happened, you go back and you read it and you know you're not mad. You
Yeah.
know you're not crazy. You know you interpreted it properly.
Yeah.
But it's really, really good for a woman, a female, even a male. Right now, we're talking about male on female violence. Yes, of course, women are monsters too. Yes, of course, men are in abusive relationships also. But tonight, we're talking about male on female
Yeah.
violence.
Well,
It's
we
so
are talking about
crucial.
men's violence at the moment. So, I mean, I've sat on domestic violence reduction units in here in the local government. And so, in terms of figures, let's just deal with this one. The numbers of men that face assault from women is fairly small, it does happen. When men face assault from women in intimate relationships, often the severity of the assault are much lower. What you'll find is that when it's men who have severe sort of domestic abuse, it's often from other men. So they're in relationships with other men as opposed to women. And that's where a lot of those stats come from. So
Yes,
it's
yes.
reasonable, I think, to talk about male violence towards women and girls during this conversation without saying we're excluding anybody. This is just the focus. Um,
Yes, thank you.
and
Yes.
it's really important that we understand that, and we understand that there's an epidemic of male violence towards women and girls at the moment, a serious epidemic that we need to
There
deal with.
is.
And we have all this stuff going on, in the news about the Epstein files, etc. This has been going on a long time. It's every single part of society. An ex-member of the royal, well, he's still a member of the royal family, but an ex-titled man is now being investigated by the police here in the UK for these types of events. In the UK, they've started, and I don't know what you think about this, but they've started to use anti-terrorism police to track down serial male abusers, because
Oh,
beginning to see, and we know this anyway, we know that mostly the very serious type of offender, which is what you experienced in your relationship with your ex-husband, they tend to be serial offenders. So they'll find a woman, they'll do exactly the process that you've described, controlling the network, either by charming it or by frightening them away. And then they will break the woman that they're involved with, and then they'll find somebody else and do it to them. And we know they will do that multiple times throughout their lives, and they are very, very dangerous people.
they are dangerous, and it appears to be in their DNA. And the
Yeah,
more professional a woman is, the higher she is up on the ladder. She absolutely cannot believe she has placed herself in this position. She does not know how she got there. She starts doubting herself
yeah,
completely. And we can ask her how she's going, we can ask her how she's doing. But sometimes, due to the failure of the marriage, the fractured relationship, cannot believe there's violence involved. There is so much shame and guilt involved, especially if she has their children in that relationship that she is not willing to share.
yeah.
But you can ask on
But
the
more
fifth
than
or
that, I
the
mean,
sixth
you know
time.
this as a health professional, you know this now as a psychological health professional. There are tools that the abuser will use. You talked about one of them, gaslighting, but there are tools and processes that they use to undermine people's sense of self, to isolate them. And I think it's really important to get that message out to people that it's not about whether you're clever or not, because as you say, the more clever one thinks one is, the more likely one is to feel very ashamed that one is in that situation. I would suggest humbly, and I'd like to have your opinion about this, that it's really important that we just have a set of red flags or rules about relationships. There
Yes,
are certain things that should never happen in a relationship, and if they do, it's time to go, right? Do you know what I mean?
yes,
And I guess
yes.
that's the message you've got for people as well, right?
Well, is someone controlling your money? Is someone controlling all the finances? Does
Yeah.
someone dole out money to you?
Yeah.
Have you discovered? Do you know that they're tracking you? Now,
Yeah.
I am from a generation who never tracked my children. My children were outside playing all day
Yeah.
long. I don't understand all this, but I understand that parents feel safer tracking. We're not talking about parents and children, we're talking about adults.
Yeah.
If there is no trust in a relationship, there is no relationship.
Yeah.
If they are tracking you, if you go to speak and they touch your arm or hold you back, or if they tell you before you walk out the door, you're not wearing that, you need to be wearing something else, you need to wear what I tell you to wear.
Yeah.
All of these things are about control.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Australia, New South Wales and Queensland brought in coercive control laws.
Yeah.
I believe just 2 weeks ago, it was announced on LinkedIn that a male just faced court for coercive control and was found guilty. And the judge listed all the things that he found so offensive and could not believe this woman had to live this way. South Australia, the state in which I live, has just passed the law. They won't come into effect until 2027. I think the wording was because everybody had to be on the same page, whatever
Yeah.
that meant. But the fact is, it's coming. So if you are not allowing someone to see friends, if a woman is being held captive in her home, if she can
Right.
only go out with him or go out when he decides that if he has the only car, the only mode of transportation, or takes yours, or takes your car keys, or takes your phone, oh my goodness, please,
Yeah,
please seek help.
absolutely.
Please seek help.
And it's the same
If,
in the UK, and we should stress this point that coercion and control in intimate partner relationships is also illegal in the UK and has been for several years now. And so,
outstanding.
if you're in a relationship where the person is controlling you, that's worrying. It's worrying. So, and from a psychological perspective, let's put it in that context. From a psychological perspective, we think about child development, we think about
Oh,
stable attachments, which normal people, people not like us, normal people call love. So, what does love
love.
look like for a child? Love looks like I trust mum, dad. Stranger walks into the room, it makes me anxious, but I run up to mum, dad, I touch them, and maybe I jump up on their lap and get a bit of comfort. But then that makes me feel comfortable to go and say hello to the stranger because I'm suddenly safe inside. Now, love, real love, gives you the confidence to go and explore life. That's the point of it. That's why
That's
Mother Nature invented it, so that we can explore and get on with things. So if somebody is loving you in a way that makes you frightened of the world, that's not love. That's control.
that's so, that is so beautifully put.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
yeah.
That's exactly right. And imagine that little boy. Imagine a little boy growing up in a family,
Can we
and
imagine a
every
little
time,
girl? Can we imagine a
or
little
a
girl?
little girl, a
Yeah,
little girl, a
yeah,
little boy. Now, I didn't grow up in a violent family. I had other things happening, but my mother and father never ever hit each other. But
yeah,
I know if that's all a child sees growing up, when the
yeah,
man gets frustrated, when he loses control, when he's fearful, when something isn't going his way and he lashes out, that's all that little child sees. That's how they learn to deal with issues and
yeah,
problems and feelings of inadequacy.
yeah,
But then they grow up, they go to another person's house and they see mom fixing dad a drink or dad fixing mom a drink. They're both outside cooking on the grill. They have this beautiful family dinner set and they invite the kids over. Everybody's laughing and talking and having a great time. And they return back home and go, oh my goodness,
mm,
that's not my family. That's not how my family operates.
yeah,
But yet, this is all they know. They solve problems by yelling and hitting and
mm,
acting out because that's all they've observed.
yeah,
So the penny does drop. They
yeah,
do get to see, but they haven't learned. They haven't learned how to handle those big emotions
yeah,
if their parents have been setting the
yeah,
worst example on the planet.
yeah.
Period.
That sort of, we all normalize our childhoods, don't we? We all think this is the way the whole world lives, which
Yes.
is the value, I suppose, of having a diverse network of people around us, that we can then
Yes.
look at things and go, is this correct or not? I remember,
Yes.
for example, I went with a friend home when I was at school and I broke something by accident and I froze in fear because in my family you'd be hit if you broke something. Um, and his parents came up and were just concerned as to whether or not I'd hurt myself. And I remember thinking, they're strange. And
Oh
later
my
on in life, I look
goodness.
back on that stuff and I go, they weren't strange. They were healthy, normal parents who were
They
concerned
were
that a
mature.
child may have hurt themselves.
They
And
had, that's called mature coping strategies.
that's
They
right.
knew
And sort
how
of,
to be with you.
and
Yes.
again, I think in these domestic abuse situations, these intimate controlling situations, the the sad thing is when people don't talk about what's going on. That's
Oh, you're
when the
absolutely right.
control and coercion takes over. The more people do discuss these things, the more you can compare and contrast and ask yourself, is this really normal? I mean, you talked to some friends, but they joined in the gaslighting or, you intimated. I mean, it's something about we should always believe victims, I think, and then get the evidence afterwards. But what was your experience? Did you try and talk about what was going on? What was your experience?
Yes, I did. And to be fair, 99% of all of my friends had already pleaded and begged. They saw so many signs that
Did
I
they? Right.
refused to see.
Right.
And when people say gut feeling and gut instincts, no, please, that is so true. Please listen to that. That is
Yeah.
there for a reason. It's innate, it's there, it's in our bodies telling us that something's wrong.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention. I love to fix, I love to help, I love to be there doing for others. And I just thought, oh, whatever it is, we're going to be able to get through it and we're going to fix
Sure.
it.
Sure.
Well,
I mean,
and
I, I don't know what you think about this, but I would say that there are, for example, I'm quite cautious. If somebody gets involved with an active addict or an active alcoholic, as a professional, I would caution people against that, to be honest, because I think that it's a really difficult situation to enter into, and people don't
oh,
understand that you can't fix those things. It's a caution I would give to people, and I'm would even go as far as to say I think it might be a red flag in terms of starting a relationship with somebody. I don't know what you think. Are there these types of things you might give advice to people as a professional and say, I would
we
be worried about that?
we both know nobody changes at the will of another.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah,
someone's struggling with alcohol and you want them to quit, they're not going to quit until they're ready to quit.
yeah.
No matter how much nagging, screaming, whatever you think that's going to do to help them, it's not going
Sure,
to happen.
sure.
So if you're in a relationship with a person who is absolutely addicted or dedicated to drinking,
Yeah,
then if you've made that decision, that's your decision.
yeah,
That's your decision. But just know until they make up their mind to change, they're not going to change. Now, the husband who was in such a dark place, I don't believe for 1 minute he was comfortable with what he was doing. I don't believe he did not enjoy living. He did not enjoy being in that space when all these horrible things happened. He was prescribed medication, but he
yeah.
refused to take the medication because he
Mm,
said, I don't feel like myself when I take it. So that's another thing too.
mm,
If a person is not going to take medication in order to level them out or to bring their emotions down to a level that's tolerable to live with, whatever the reasons, it's their choice. You can't make people take
sure.
medication. I was just
But the flip
exhausted
side of
by it
it
and
is you will
fearful.
have to live with the consequences, right? And the
Yes,
consequences are
yes,
just can be devastating and lifelong. And so I would urge people also to sort of have a realistic conversation with themselves about whether because it will affect your psyche. There's no doubt about it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And remember when we were talking about it doesn't matter whether the woman is a high professional or whether she is a stay at home housewife by her choice. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It does
Yeah,
not care how much money you make. It does not care if you're poor as a church mouse. It does not matter if you're beautiful. It does not matter if you think you're unattractive. It does not matter if you're undereducated or poorly educated. When a man wants to control, when he has set his sights on a woman or a person to control, he's going to do that.
yeah,
Domestic violence does not discriminate.
yeah,
It's just sometimes you have to ask a woman more times than three or four. And maybe the sixth or seventh time she'll say, I am so afraid
yeah,
and I don't know what to do. I don't know what my next step
yeah,
is going to be. I
yeah,
have no idea what to do next, but I've got to get my children out of this situation.
yeah, yeah,
And I tell people, you know how it is when you first fall in love. The birds are chirping, the butterflies are flying all around your head, and
sure.
you get your stomach gets churning because you're so excited about the prospect of seeing them. And that's great. So sometimes we do vanish and disappear from family and
Mm,
loved ones when we're in a brand new relationship. But if it goes on, if you're not hearing from that person the way you used to hear from them, they're not answering text messages, they're not ringing, go over there.
mm,
And if he puts his hand at the door and says, oh, I'm so sorry, she has a headache. Oh, I'm so sorry, she can't come to the door right now. I'm sorry, she can't see you. If you feel safe enough, you just simply say, oh, it's been too long. She's my dear friend. I
sure,
have to see her.
sure.
If you don't, you go back and you get your tribe and you get the
Yeah,
police
yeah,
if you
yeah.
have
You
to.
get the police, definitely.
Absolutely.
Who would default towards the police. Look, we've run
Absolutely.
out of time, unfortunately. It's been Amazing to have you on. I'm really, really grateful that you've come on. Tell us the title of your book again so that people can get hold of it.
Well, no, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I did write a work of fiction because people don't want to have statistics thrown down their faces anymore. You will come away with a real sense of what it's like for a woman to flee domestic violence with her children. Madness in Memphis, available in 40,000 stores throughout the country, the giant Amazon. You can order it through your boutique favorite bookstore too. Madness in Memphis, out now. Buy one. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you for joining us and for making the subject so accessible. I think, it is really important, particularly doing works of fiction, let's put it in inverted commas, because actually producing stories that people can identify with and go, oh, I'm like that, is probably more useful than producing some textbook that won't be read.
This this
Do you know what I
story is
mean?
resonating.
I,
Yes,
I
it is
think.
resonating. People are saying it could have been anywhere. That could have been me, Patricia. It's resonating.
Absolutely. So those things are, I mean, the oral tradition around these things is really important, and sharing
Yes.
stories and sharing our stories. And thank you so much for coming on and being so honest and open and sharing people today. So it's been
Thank you
great.
for having me.
So you
Oh, it's
stay
been a
there,
pleasure for
folks.
me
I
too.
hope you found that useful, interesting, insightful. Again, if you're identifying that you're in this type of situation, if you already know that you're in this type of situation, just be aware that there is help available in the UK. Start with organisations such as Women's Aid or the police should be able to help, etc. Every local authority in the UK will have a domestic violence reduction service. You can get services that for your browser, so you can hide your browser history against dangerous men. So there are services there. Tap into them, and take care of yourself, and just understand that no matter where you are, no matter where you are on the spectrum of abuse, being abused, to coming out of it, going into it, in the middle of it, there is always help available and there is always hope. And you've got two people sitting here telling you that I did it, I experienced it as a child. Look at me now. I'm talking about it. I'm fine. Patricia's experienced it as an adult. She's fine. So you will be okay if you go and seek the help that you need. Um, say goodbye for now. I hope that was helpful, folks. And then I will see you all at the next episode of the Wellbeing Show. But do go and buy Madness. Say it again.
Madness in Memphis.
Madness in.
Madness in Memphis.
Great.
Patricia Gordon Stevens.
Thank you
You're
very
a
much.
gem, Noel. Thank you.
Thank you.